and gentlemen, to an all-new reaction and review. Tonight, guys, I'm checking out a film from 1985. That movie is Brazil. Now, I had a very hard choice, going all the way back to when I first made this one of the candidates for episode 500. It obviously didn't win, but, because the Blu-ray I have here has two versions of the film. One of them is Terry Gilliam's director's cut, which clocks in at 2 hours and 22 minutes. Rather daunting and kind of long, but probably well worth it. I've heard nothing but positive things about that cut of the film. But then, on the second disc, is the infamous, controversial studio edit made for syndicated television called the Love Conquers All version, which apparently has a whole new intro, has a completely different ending, and is almost 45 minutes shorter. I'm curious what the fuck the studio did, because I've heard that this movie is a blinding mindfuck of a film. I have heard from some people that you can get easily lost in this thing. For the studio to take a hacksaw and take 45 minutes out, my God, I am curious if this cut's going to make a lick of sense at fucking all. I really am. And I want to see what the hell this infamous, horrendous ending is. So, for reaction and review, I've decided to go with the Love Conquers All edit simply out of morbid curiosity more than anything else. I'm certainly hoping for it to be decent, and if it's not, well, I always have the director's cut I can fall back on and I can watch later. Probably not for this series, obviously. But I do have hopes on the Love Conquers All edit at least having something. But the only way I'm going to find out, guys, if this thing is any good at all, is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Brazil. Okay, so I have a question, albeit a real dumb one, but please just bear with me. So do the SWAT teams in this world regularly introduce themselves with the sound of sleigh bells before pounding into the building, or is that just something that they do around Christmas time to be festive? I honestly am kind of curious, because it was sort of interesting, and the fact that they're hinting that it's around Christmas makes it even funnier, you know? Well, guys, I can certainly say that Tuttle is an awesome character. That's probably helped by the fact that he's played by Robert fucking De Niro, and De Niro can make almost anything fucking work. I really think that's helping make this character even more likable than he probably was in the first place on the script page. In short, I'm really digging Tuttle's character. Okay, guys, I think I found a problem with watching this version of the movie. Well, besides the obvious problems that everyone has talked about with this specific edit of this film. For whatever reason, the quality of the picture fluctuates sharply from shot to shot. It looks to me as if when Universal was putting this edit together for television, they didn't have, like, enough shit that had the same, like, quality level to it. So we will have a shot from one angle, it is grainy as balls, and then they kick over to another angle, and it's almost in high def, which is saying a lot, because the version that is on this Blu-ray disc has obviously not been, you know, given the whole high def treatment, because it still has that little air of, like, television grainy look throughout most of it. But the fact that it cannot stay consistent in terms of picture quality from shot to shot is going to irritate the fuck out of me. In fact, it has so far for the first, 40 minutes or so of this film. Out of all the shit I was going to complain about in this thing, out of all the problems I kind of felt I was going to find, that was not one of the ones I was expecting. Okay, so let me see if I understand this. So he saw this woman in, at least as far as the viewer knows, one vision, one dream, one. Some weird thing where he's dressed as an angel, and she's, I guess, his goddess, some such weird shit. He spent this whole time trying to find her. He finally finds her, immediately opens up to her, says, "I love you," and she almost kills him by pushing him out of a truck. I know that this is called the love... I know this is called the Love Conquers All cut, which means that they are going to wind up together. Goddamn, I want to know, because there's nothing there to really base a fucking relationship off of outside of, "Oh, I dreamed about you once." How the fuck are you going to spin that into... Oh my god, I am really curious now. So on top of being a fugitive, freelance, heat service tech who just likes to fuck with the system, Tuttle also likes to do pranks like pump sewage into the clean suits of people in the labs. That's actually rather funny. That is actually kind of sort of creative. I was not expecting that. I also wasn't expecting Tuttle to only be in 2 scenes. I thought maybe, well, at least so far, only 2 scenes. I figured that with Robert fucking De Niro playing him, he'd be in there more. And apparently clean suits can only hold so much sewage before they fucking explode. I would never have guessed. Well, that was Brazil, the Love Conquers All edit. Jesus Christ. Wow, that ending was incredibly tacked on and shit. And the studio really didn't think people were going to ask, how exactly did they evade arrest and are now in the countryside somewhere? Or where this countryside even is? Holy shit, wow, that ending was garbage. I knew the ending was going to be shit. I did. I mean, I knew when I picked this cut of the film that I was going to get a rather controversial kind of shit ending. I can take a guess as to how the actual film ends. I don't want to spoil that, because, you know, perhaps I could be totally wrong. And for those who haven't seen the movie yet, don't want that shit spoiled. But, considering the fact that this is called the Love Conquers All edit, I'm going to assume that the film ends on a huge downer, and I'm sensing that downer ending would probably have been a lot better than this ending. Fucking hell. Okay, so before I talk about the film proper, or at least the version of the film I watched proper, I need to make a couple of little notes here, and this has to do with the fact that this specific edit of the film was made for TV. And, I'm usually petrified of television edits of films, guys, because, especially R-rated films like this one, because they have to neuter the shit out of a film, if it's rated R, to get it suitable for TV. Even back in the 80s when this thing first came out and the edit was probably made, they had to do a lot of cuts. One of the big things that gets changed when a movie goes from theater to television, especially, again, R-rated films, is the language. The language has to be cleaned up. I will say, at least what's here is cleaned up really, really well. And the only time it doesn't work is when they're lazily editing out swears. For instance, at one point, our main character Sam is called a fucking asshole. You only hear ass. Actually, you hear ass, and then it cuts. That was such a lazy cut, and you can see it coming. And the only other times that you really notice it is if a character is on camera talking, and you can see what they are saying. But I will say this: if you're not paying that close attention to it, you probably would not know, because they either got the actors in to loop in this dialogue, or they got really good sound-alikes, and that's something which a lot of these films can't do. I have heard some television edits where they've gotten in actors to loop in, or they've gotten in like sound-alikes to loop in the dialogue, who sound nothing like the actors who they are trying to sound like. So I'm going to give them props on that. But while I can give them credit for it at least cleaning up the film in a decent fashion, they fucked up cleaning up the film in a slightly different way. And I mentioned it earlier, but god damn it, it has to be mentioned again. This movie, oh dear God, this edit of the film must have used at least 4 different sources to get all of their clips from. Because I'm going to tell you guys, I'm used to movies where the quality of the footage violently jumps as they're working in new footage. I mean, shit, I have Silent Night, Deadly Night on Blu-ray. Before that, I had it on DVD. And in both cases, it's the very same edit of the film where they wanted to get the best cut possible. So that meant taking stuff that wasn't in a cleaner cut of the film and putting it in, and then those scenes are far grainier and darker, and that's kind of understandable because those were released by a small studio who didn't have a lot of time to clean up the second source to make it match the really polished digitally remastered thing. So those stand out. This thing was edited for television shortly after the film was made. There's no fucking excuse for that kind of difference. And that's honest to God there, where you will see shots that are worlds fucking grainier, or they almost seem to be shot at a lower frame fucking rate, which I didn't think I'd be able to talk about frame rate in a film. But Jesus Christ, and that ending, fucking hell. Probably the biggest problem with the ending is, in the ending, we see our main character Sam in bed. Okay? He's in bed, he's sleeping, but it's not like a new shot of him sleeping. It's a grainy still shot from when we see him at the very start of the movie sleeping. No, I'm not kidding, guys. I've seen better edits in amateur indie films. That is inexcusable, especially for something like this. Especially for a television edit that was made by a major fuck-off studio. There is no excuse for this. This was... Jesus God. But see, all of that just ties into what they had to add for the television edit. I don't know what the... Well, I can kind of guess a lot of the shit they cut out of the, 50 minutes of film they had to sear off this thing. 50 minutes plus the fucking ending. Holy hell. I'm gonna have to watch the director's cut probably later today or possibly tomorrow. Not sure. Because what is here... I guess I can talk about writing. Actually, I'm just going to say this before I jump into writing. What is here works to a point. That point is all the way up until the last 2 minutes. Fuck that ending. Holy shit. Almost everything else works though, and works really well. Works a hell of a lot better than I honestly thought it was going to work. So now let's talk about our film. What I saw here was a very fascinating story, and once more, there's probably a hell of a lot more in it in the director's cut, but you see, I've always loved dystopian future stories. One of my favorite books of all time is George Orwell's 1984. That should sort of tell you I'm really into the whole dystopian thing. What I loved about this film is it took it in a different direction, because almost every other film, it's it's essentially like communism, only worse. Or it's like a fucking police state. Or it's the worst kind of dictatorship you could find. This does have elements of that. But all of that gets buried quite literally under the mountains of bureaucratic paperwork. Guys, this is probably one of the few times I've ever seen a 100% bureaucratically run dystopia. Everything boils down to codes and numbers and forms and paperwork, and holy shit. And as somebody whose day job is doing tons of paperwork, it basically looked like my job. Just mountains and mountains of almost unnecessary paperwork that you have to fill out for no real reason except it's your fucking job. Except this is an entire society controlled and dominated by that. Holy hell. Guys, that just blew my fucking mind. I never thought I would see a bureaucratic dictatorship in a film. That was fascinating. And I know that Terry Gilliam is creative as shit. I knew that. I was not expecting that from him. That's fucking amazing. Holy shit. And that, guys, is like the thing that is going to keep you going. That right there is going to be your driving motivation throughout this entire film, is you want to see where this story goes. Unfortunately, while the story goes into some really interesting places, again, this version of the film, the ending just basically drops all that, goes, nope, fuck it, happy ending out of left field. Fuck you all. Which was awful. I'm going to tell you. That is probably the worst ending I've ever seen in the history of film. Because it seems so disconnected from the rest of the film. Like, it, honest to God, almost feels like they just dumped in some random bullshit from a totally different film. Oh my God. Guys, that ending just... And I knew that that ending was the reason why the big reason why everyone hated this edit of the film. I haven't even seen the fucking director's cut, and I'm furious about that fucking ending. I'm probably going to be even more so once I watch the fucking director's cut. So anyway, trying not to continue to bitch about that shitbag ending. Our writing here, though, at least what made it into this edit of the film, is incredibly strong, and it's just a real fascinating look. And I found myself liking a ton of the characters. I wanted to see more and more of the setting. Yeah, it really was just a story fantastically told. We had a marvelous story. We had ultra deep characters. We had writing that at times was that kind of Terry Gilliam wit that you want. And my God, that is razor sharp wit. Some of that is absolutely hilarious. And it works into this film incredibly well. The writing, I will never have a negative thing to say about the writing here, minus the studio mandated ending. Fuck the... I said I'm not talking about the ending anymore. Fuck that ending. So, the writing that was here from and directed by Terry Gilliam was great. The acting. Our acting is fantastic. I found it kind of weird. I was looking at the cast on the back here, and Bob Hoskins is mentioned. I don't remember Bob Hoskins being in it for more than like 2 minutes. I know for a fact that he's one of the heat service engineers who shows up like kind of early on in the film after we first see Tuttle. I think he's in like one other scene past that. Which means that Bob Hoskins has even less screen time than Robert fucking De Niro, because at least De Niro gets into 3 scenes. But still, everybody who is here, no matter how short their time, is amazing. And perhaps maybe it's just because I'm a big fan of Bob Hoskins. I would have loved to have seen more with him in this film. In fact, shit, I'm almost having fantasies of Bob Hoskins being the fucking star. That's how big a fan I am of Bob Hoskins' work. But still, what is here from him is great. What is here from the rest of the cast is amazing. Everything here, guys, in terms of acting is top-notch and solid. So, really, guys, so far, the only things I can bitch about is shit that was brought about because of the choice of edit I decided to watch. Camera work here is really good, again, minus the bits where footage gets ridiculously blurry and grainy and shit. Again, I'm going to assume that is exclusive to this edit of the film. Lighting, same thing. It's really good until the camera work until the film gets incredibly blurry and shit. Once more, I'm going to blame that on the television edit and not on the film proper. Our sound mix here is really good. Once more, especially with the stuff that they had to alter for television, because, because if a character's mouth is not on camera, I was having a hard time figuring out if what they were saying actually was a substitute for, you know, foul language, or maybe covering up for some plot point that got cut out of the 50 minutes of film they removed. So all of that was done great, and all that falls underneath sound mix. I cannot praise the sound mix more. This is an amazing sound mix. Our score here is fantastic. I really did love the music in this film. Oh, one more thing. This sort of goes back to writing. And this is something else that you have to kind of expect from Terry fucking Gilliam. And this kind of goes back to his razor sharp wit. His absolutely biting satire that he loves to pepper into most of his stuff. This film is not only telling us, guys, about this horrific fucking topia, which is every other kind of dystopia you've ever seen, buried under mountains of bureaucratic paperwork, which, again, awesome shit. But there are also comments about plastic surgery, there are comments about general fucking consumerism, made even more biting by the fact that the film is set around Christmas, which is when everybody becomes the biggest consumer whore they can possibly be. It all blends, it all ties in, it all works so fucking well. My God, guys, the writing here is stellar, and as much as the studio attempted to murder it with this edit of the film, a lot of it still fucking shines through, and what I saw, I loved, minus that fucking ending. Shit me dead. Anyway, guys, so when all's said and done, I'm able to recommend Brazil. Specifically the Love Conquers All edit, which is available on the Criterion Blu-ray. Best bet's to watch the theatrical, or the director's cut, rather. That would probably be a far better thing. Now that I got to watch this, now that I made my bed and I lied and I decided to watch this piece of shit. Again, piece of shit simply because of that goddamned ending. That ending that came out of nowhere, explains nothing, gives us no fucking closure. Oh, God. Probably one of the best films I've seen in ages, with one of the worst endings you could have ever tacked onto the son of a bitch. But, as far as, like, a curiosity goes, by all means, check it out, especially if you guys have to shill out the extra and get the fucking Criterion disc here, because you will then have the director's cut, and this thing here, this edit of the film, is sitting on the second disc as a bonus feature, so I guess you can see it more out of, like, curiosity, and it has commentary, not from Terry Gilliam. I have a feeling that if Terry Gilliam were doing the commentary on this, it would probably be just 93 minutes of him just raging about how Universal tried to rape his film. But it's actually from a fucking ultra fan of this film, who knows all the ins and outs of this specific edit of the film, and talks about all the differences, talks about how all the cast and crew felt about it, why the fucking studio did it. That is going to be a fascinating commentary, and that's probably the only reason why I'm ever going to go back to watching this cut of the film. This one specific cut is to watch that commentary, because this thing does have, on its first disc, it does have the director's cut, and god damn it, in the next few days, probably going to have to watch that and compare it to this thing. It can't possibly, the ending cannot be worse. Because I'm going to tell you guys right now, I was totally looking forward to a downer ending, knowing full well that the edit I decided to watch didn't have it. And I can take a fucking guess as to how it was supposed to end. Again, I don't want to spoil anything. And the ending that was offered in the Love Conquers All edit is the worst ending I've ever seen in a film. Which is saying a lot, because once more, everything else that's in here is marvelous. Everything else that's here borders on sheer masterpiece. And that ending comes out of left field and absolutely fucks the entire edit of the film, because now we don't have closure. I feel completely fucking cheated. I'm gonna have to watch the fucking director's cut, probably as soon as I'm done editing all of this shit. Anyway, so in a rare instance, guys, I would have to say, if you're given a choice, because there are 2 Blu-rays of this out right now, one of them, which I believe has just the director's cut, which is far cheaper, or this one, which has tons of like documentaries, bonus features, and the Love Conquers All edit, go for this one, because this cut of the film actually, it does sort of work at least as a fucking curiosity, as long as you don't let the ending absolutely piss you off as it has done to me. Anyway, that was really a good film. Minus the ending. I'm going to step away for a minute. I'm going to come back. I'm going to edit everything I filmed here. And while that's saving, I'm probably going to watch the director's cut, or I might just watch the Love Conquers All edit with the fucking superfan commentary and listen as the superfan weeps over that ending for probably about 93 minutes, because I feel like I could fucking weep about that shitty ending for 93 fucking minutes. Anyway, guys, with that, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.